Good morning. Welcome to Quilt Talk. Happy Valentine's Day. I have a whole stack of quilts to show you, a few quilt blocks, and then plans for next week. So let me start with showing you the quilts. I have a little quilt parade to do. One advantage of batch sewing things and batch assembling things is that when you're done, you have something to show for it, and it's really satisfying. So this quilt I've shown a couple times before. It's the Sew in Love quilt by Aditya Sitar, and I stitched this a couple years ago, and I got the binding sewn on this week. So I got my binding on. I'm still not the best at doing binding. I feel like it's one of those things where I think the more I do it, the better I'll get at it. So the binding is sewn on this one. So this one is officially a finish, and I am so in love with it, to be kind of funny. It is gorgeous. It uses mostly her fabrics, although I do have a couple of like batiks and other fabrics that were just out of stash. I played around with doing some free motion quilting and just kind of squiggle lined it. I really enjoyed this project. I'm actually thinking, as I was stitching it, because I'm going to start Liberty Gatherings tomorrow, and there's a couple blocks I want to switch out in here. Like I think that block, there was another one somewhere in there, but I think these are 9-inch finished blocks, and so is this one. So I was thinking I could get this book back out, and like this might be a really nice block that would kind of go with the theme. And then there was another really nice star block in here somewhere, maybe this one. So these could be options for that quilt, and a nice way to kind of reuse a book that I've already purchased and used, and just kind of using stuff that's in my stash. But anyway, this is one of my favorite quilts. I don't know if I'm gonna put it out. I'll probably just maybe over the back of the couch for a few days, but I want to make a quilt ladder at some point, because I feel like this is like a gorgeous quilt ladder quilt that would be great for just using in a lap in the living room, snuggling up. But anyway, quilt 1 is done, and honestly I was just sewing the binding on this one, so but again, it feels like a great finish to have such a big thing done. Just, I don't know, I think there's something to that. So anyway, so Sew in Love, quilt 1. Quilt 2 is a pattern by Chelsea Stratton Designs, and I think it's Hearts at Home or Heart, and it's a jelly roll quilt, and it was a lot of fun to make. It was my first all over log cabin quilt that I've done. It has these really cute heart blocks in the middle. Did just some squiggle free motion quilting on this, and I used all Chelsea and Sherry fabrics. So I've got purples, and I think her pattern has blues and greens and other reds and pinks, and I just went with all Valentine's Day colors. So again, I'm still kind of learning the free motion quilting thing. Got my binding sewn on. I did a Scrappy binding, so I have another Valentine's quilt, and all of the leftovers from that could be a 2.5-inch strip I cut for the binding, and just did a Scrappy binding. And then I also had some purple, probably on the bottom of the quilt, I had some purple strips from my jelly roll that was in my purple bin up there, and I pulled those out and used those to make a Scrappy binding as well. So anyway, I will try to insert some video and photos of the quilt. It's a little hard to show close up, but I love this quilt as well, and this was a fun quilt. My first log cabin quilt. Definitely want to make more log cabin quilts. It's very satisfying to have something like this big finish, and it was a lot of fun to make. Actually, I think the other quilt has the purple binding. This just ended up with all Scrappy binding. So anyway, that is quilt number 2. And this one I am looking forward to putting on my bed as soon as we're done here, and enjoy this for a little while. It's Valentine's Day today. Like, I could still decorate with pinks and hearts the rest of the month or for a while, because these are just such happy colors. Oh, the backing. So I got a mystery backing box from Pet Quarter Shop, and I put a couple of them together for the quilt. So there's a green strip, and that's about how wide it was. I've got this pretty floral, and then this pink. So I thought they went well enough together, and they were about the right size. And so big long strips for those. And then I've got a huge mountain of battings and backings to kind of process through, all the trimmings from the outside. So I will need to work on that this week as well, And I think some of the thinner strips of batting I will cut down to maybe do a jelly roll rug. And then the backings I might try to continue to piece. Although if I have some of this leftover green, I might actually just cut that down for another quilt or put it in the green scrap bin. So anyway, quilt 2. Quilt 3, and this is probably my favorite of the ones I have today. And this one is one that was just a combination of a fat quarter bundle from Fat Quarter Shop's Holiday Club from like 2 or 3 years ago. And I used that as color inspiration and went into my different color bins and just pulled Valentine's Day themed fabrics that I thought would work well together. I think I ended up with 400 5-inch squares, and I just sewed them together. And I love this kind of project. I know I love like the fancy piecing like you get in Sew in Love, but then having just something simple where you just get to play with color and it comes together so quickly is also really satisfying. So here is my Scrappy 5-inch charm pack quilt, and it's just all leftovers from other projects. Some were actually charm packs. I really enjoyed stitching with the batiks. Like that was something I was not expecting when I was stash diving and stash busting. And I feel like they're a really nice way to have like a little something that's tonal and that can pull out colors from other blocks. And I really enjoyed it. So again, I'm going to try to show some better photos and video of this when the lighting's a little better later downstairs. But like I just really enjoyed playing with color, and I enjoyed pulling from a more limited color palette, because I have another quilt that I need to work on where it's just every color and every kind of pattern and every tone, and I feel like it's a little jarring. But something like this that actually has a cohesive palette I think is really nice. And I love working on these, and I plan on making more of these with some different color palettes. And honestly, they're some of my most used quilts. I have a Christmas one that I use all the time. It's still on my bed now. It's gonna get changed out for these Valentine's ones, but a lot of fun. The backing again was just some of the wide backings, and this one honestly I used this one because it was big enough. So I have, oh, here's the purple binding I was talking about. So this has a combination of Scrappy binding and then just purple binding, and that's another project I want to do this week, is I've got a couple of leftover like bindings, and I just want to put them together on one of these little pardon the noise these little binding holder things that I've gotten in a couple like Fat Quarter Shop boxes or advent calendars over the years. All of mine are empty now. I've used all of my bindings, so I want to kind of restock my bindings, because I do want to continue this process of having quilts on the go to get them finished, because I've got a whole basket full of tops and I want them done. And doing this many quilts in a week was a little overwhelming, if I'm being honest. And so I feel like breaking up the steps, like doing a batch but breaking them up, I think is a better idea for me and my work pattern. Like I enjoy pinning a quilt, so doing two or 3 days of pinning a quilt downstairs, and then having like sections where I can just quilt, but maybe not feeling like I have to quilt the entire quilt, because I feel like that, I don't know where I have this idea from, that I think I have to quilt an entire quilt in one sitting. I don't know. But like, if having just the quilts pinned and ready to go though, like I could sit for an hour when I come up and just like work on a section of the quilt and then stop. And then that way I feel like I would probably do a better job and I wouldn't get so tired of it. But kind of still having like this batch, and then have the pile build up of quilted quilts and then trim the quilts, and just kind of like breaking the steps up. And that's one thing that I like to do, and it helps me be really productive, is just having like a bunch of steps to do. Like when I was getting the bindings ready, it was nice, like, because all I had to do is pull out the ironing board and I could iron all of the, well, first I was able to put the 1/4-inch foot on my machine. I followed Corey Yoder's tutorial, and I should have, I'll back up. So I used Corey Yoder's tutorial, and I have the 1/4-inch foot for my machine. So I just left that on my machine and was sewing all of the bindings on, which was nice. And then my mistake was I tried to just scissor cut off the extra, and I should have used the mat and the cutter. And I think that would have made the next step better, because I mean, there's some spots where like I feel like my binding could have been a lot more even had I used the rotary cutter. But anyway, just having these steps to do. Like this morning I sat down and I sewed the last step of the binding on all of my quilts. And so just having those kind of batches to do, I think, is helpful, but then maybe just not trying to do all of the batches in 1 week. So anyway, so this is my third finished quilt for the week. This is probably my favorite of all of them. And then here's another one. This is not Valentine's Day quilt. This was just one from the basket that I pulled out. It's a smaller quilt. It was from 2 fat quarter bundles from a holiday bundle kit or club from Fat Quarter Shop from a couple years ago. And I sewed this years ago. And it's just all different Patriotic fabrics. And again, just 5-inch squares sewn together. And so I quilted it and put the binding on this week. So this is just a nice quick finish. And it's something I want to continue to do to get these quilts done and out of stash, and then that way I can use them. So anyway, 4 finished quilts. Huge mountain of quilts in here. It was super cute. My dog, who's younger, he's 2, and so he's never seen like the quilting process. So this is his real first time seeing me like quilt and finish quilts. And so I was taking the pins out of one of the quilt downstairs the other day, and he realized what it was because we use quilts all the time, and he was so excited. He like put his paws up on the table, and he was like, "This is a quilt!" And anyway, it was adorable. And so anyway, so let me show you some blocks. So I've got some blocks and other projects I'm just trying to like push through the machine. So this first one was a project I probably cut out 6 or 7 years ago, and it's just all of these cute map fabrics and just different things. It was a stash buster at the time, so if I had fabrics that I thought went well with the map bundle I had, I pulled out other fabrics as well. So anyway, so I have all of these strips, and I sewed them like this years ago, and this is what was in the basket. So I'm starting to take these, and if I need a leader or a hinder, I am sewing them into just sets of 2. So I've got a whole stack of these done so far. Not much to show. They all kind of look the same at this point. Not as exciting as like the Valentine's quilt, but I'm going to keep sewing them into sets of 2, and then I'll start turning them into blocks. This one might be a piece backing on something. I don't know. Because the nice thing is that this is a really big piece of fabric when I'm done, a big quilt top. So it's kind of nice for some of the bigger quilts. Although I do still have some of the wide backing strips to work my way through. Next, I've got a couple of finished blocks. So these were cut out last weekend, and I got to sewing them the first couple days of this week. And these are out of Lord Holt's Farm Girl Vintage 2. I am loosely following along with her quilt along. I'm basically working my way through her books. And if I like the block, I'm working it. If I don't, I'm skipping it. And it's going to end up being 3 separate quilts when I'm done. So I'm going to have a summer garden themed quilt, I'm going to have a fall themed quilt, and then a Christmas themed quilt. And I don't know how long this project will take me, but I just like the idea of working through all the different blocks, and it's fun to stitch on them. It's fun to play with the fabrics, and it's a good stash buster, good skill builder. Anyway, so here's some of the ones that I am working on. This one I opted to do the 12-inch block just because there's a lot of pieces on this. This was actually pretty easy and fun to stitch. I chose this fabric up here. You can see with the lighting the way it is, but I really like this fabric, so I chose it for the fork. And then I liked how this fabric had like the little dots, and it looked like the the watermelon seeds on a watermelon. So that's why I chose these fabrics. Anyway, so that one was a lot of fun to work on. And then I had just a bonus block from, I think I have a pumpkin block coming up, and so that was just some bonus squares. I had a lot of seam ripping this week with these. I don't know, I think I was trying to go too fast, and you have to really pay attention on the Lori Holt ones because it does line up so perfectly. It's very easy to turn something upside down. I think this one, I had accidentally put that upside down and had to redo it. But anyway, it's been fun working my way through some of my Lori Holt stash. Some of them I actually have some of the fabrics from her earlier books, which are kind of fun. Like I think these were some of the fabrics from her earlier books, and then that was a newer fabric. This one was cute. I've got this. And some of the flower ones I'm doing smaller. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Unless it's a really complicated block, then I might make it the larger size. This one is one for my Christmas quilt. And so this is Primitive Gatherings fabric. And so I'm enjoying this one. I had a lot of fun with this. And then worked on some of my hand stitching. My hand stitching is still not great, but honestly, it's one of those things where you can watch a million videos on how to do it, but until you start trying it, like you're not gonna get better at it. So, but it's fun, and I like this one. I figure it's like one of those I don't know, Christmas pies or chicken pot pie or something. And then these are ones that are going to go in my fall theme quilt. And I think for my fall theme quilt, I'm going to do all 12-inch blocks. And the books have, here, I'll show you one second, some like other blocks I'm not going to use in the spring and Christmas blocks because I want to do the big barn block from one of her quilt alongs and then the log cabin one. So I'm not going to do like the house and the tractor block, or maybe I'll do the tractor blocks. So I'm not going to do any of like the house blocks. And so they will all go on the fall quilt. I also saw that Lori Holt has a fall quilt kit coming out. And since I already have the baking templates, I'm not going to buy the new templates. And I might just kind of like use her new quilt along as like inspiration and just kind of wing it. But anyway, and then there's a cat as well. My little embroidery job. Not the best at it yet, but honestly, like from back here, it looks fine. But it's a little cat, and then I did pink color, and then I hand stitched on the little face. But again, like this is something like the more I do it, the better I'll get at some of these different stitching. So anyway, so in the book, this one doesn't have those, but the other book has like little house blocks and stuff. I'll just put that on the fall quilt. So anyways, that is all of my sewing for the week. And then as I was putting the binding on one of the quilts, naturally I ran out of all of my bobbin threads. So I had to spend a good hour like winding bobbins on. And I have some thread from Connecting Threads that's a little thicker than the Aurifil. And I've been trying to use it up. So I've just been putting it in bobbin thread. And so my bobbins all end up being wonky colors, but it's a good way to use it up. Or if it's something that doesn't necessarily matter, like quilting or something where the weight of the thread isn't as significant, because I know sometimes with like piecing, having like the nice 50 weight or whatever it is ends up being really important. So I do have a couple of bobbins of Aurifil that I use if I'm doing something where I really need it, but mostly I just have my bobbins, and I reloaded my whole bobbin box. Other things that I do is I've been trying to be good about switching my needles out. So I just put a fresh needle on after I finished all of this, and I ended up switching needles probably once or twice during all of the quilting, just because you can start to hear it. Like if it starts to make weird noises, then it's time to change it. It'll probably past time to change it, but that's when I change it. So another tip or thing that I do is when I finish one of these little I don't know, needle holder dispenser things, is I will put an X on it, and then when I'm changing my needles out, I will put them in here, and when this fills up, I just throw it out. I don't like throwing needles in the trash just in case, like, what if it gets knocked over, or I'm digging around, or when I go to dump it in the bigger trash bag, like, I don't want needles or sharp things poking around, so I will just keep this in my drawer, and then when I change out a new needle, I will put it in here, and then I know not to use these. So that's all the things I'm checking. So the other thing I'm going to do, and it's something I've done for the last couple of years, and it's something I've always enjoyed doing when it comes to this time of year. So start of Lent is this Wednesday, I believe, and I always do 40 days of no new starts. So it's kind of like a good challenge for me to kind of work my way through older projects. And different years I take different interpretations of it. Some years I'm just strictly like, just don't start anything new. And other years I try to work on like older projects, or maybe projects I don't love as much, and just kind of get them done. So I'm going to be doing that starting this week. And so I won't have any new starts until after Easter. And I'm looking forward to just kind of like working my way through older quilt projects and just kind of getting things quilted. If it's been cut out already, I will get it sewn or start working on some of these other projects. And then that way, when the spring rolls around, I'll be ready to start a whole bunch of new projects. Same thing for my other crafts, knitting, crochet, and cross stitch and stuff. I'm just going to work on some of my older projects for the next little while. If anyone wants to join me in that, you're more than welcome to. I like doing it this time of year too. It's just kind of like a stash down, or not really a stash down. I guess it is kind of a stash down, but also like a project, clean out, because I don't like doing it at the start of the year, because December, January, I have all these Christmas starts and things I'm excited about starting. I don't want to do a 40 days of no new starts at the beginning of the year. And I feel like it's kind of a good spring cleaning time of year to do it, because I can kind of work on some stuff and then have it done before I want to start new things for the summer, or I don't know, I feel like sometimes around the start of summer, I want to work on other projects anyway, or just the type of projects I'm craving changes. So anyway, that is my quilt progress for this week. I'm going to do some tidying up this week, work on that new Liberty Gatherings quilt, and then just start working on old projects. And that's my plan. So anyway, thank you so much for watching my quilt talk, and I'll catch you next time.